Perfect competition is one of the four basic market structures. Perfect competition has three distinguishing characteristics. First, a large number of buyers trades with a large number of sellers. Large means that each buyer and each seller has such a small share of the market that no individual buyer or seller can affect market price noticeably. The market for IBM Class A stock is a good example of a large number of buyers and sellers. Generally, the decision of an individual to buy or sell shares affects the demand and supply so little that the individual can buy or sell as much as he or she wants without affecting the market price. Of course, the market price would change if many people decide to sell or if many people decide to buy. The second characteristic is that products offered by the sellers are perfect substitutes. When products are perfect substitutes, buyers always prefer to purchase from the seller with the lowest price. Shares for IBM Class A stock are generally perfect substitutes. Buyers nearly always prefer to purchase shares at the lowest price available, regardless of whether the seller is a large mutual fund or a little old lady from Pasadena. The final characteristic is that entry into and exit from the market are free. Free entry and exit means that incumbent firms do not have any advantages over new entrants. Both incumbents and entrants have access to the same cost structures and produce goods that consumers view as perfect substitutes. The market for IBM Class A stock is a decent example. Anyone who wants to enter the market as a buyer or seller can do so by paying a small transaction fee to a broker. Many commodity markets closely resemble perfect competition. Winter wheat and durum wheat are two examples. They trade in worldwide markets with a large number of buyers and sellers. 1 bushel of winter wheat, or durum wheat, is indistinguishable from another. Buyers are free to enter or exit the commodity markets, and farmers can enter or exit by changing the crops they plant. The markets for many financial assets also closely resemble perfect competition. The market for IBM Class A stock is one example. The federal funds market, where banks lend and borrow overnight reserves, is another example. A large number of banks compete to be borrowers and lenders. A dollar loaned by one bank is usually a perfect substitute for a dollar loaned by another bank. Entry and exit is free. Any bank with sufficient reserves may borrow. Any bank with excess reserves may lend. Now, even good examples of industries that resemble the perfectly competitive market structure will usually deviate slightly from the characteristics of perfect competition. Brokerage fees represent small barriers to entry and exit in the market for IBM Class A stock. Sometimes governments restrict how farmers can use their land, thereby creating barriers to exit or entry in some agricultural commodity markets. Sometimes a dollar or commodity sold by one seller is not a perfect substitute for a dollar or commodity sold by another seller. For example, during a financial crisis, banks may prefer to borrow from banks that are less likely to go bankrupt and will pay a higher interest rate to banks that are viewed as safer. Another example occurred when South Africa practiced apartheid. The city of Richmond would not buy bullion gold from South Africa, even though bullion gold is the same regardless of where it is mined. The city also would not take a loan from a bank that loaned to South Africa. By refusing to work with banks that loaned to South Africa, the city sometimes paid a higher interest rate than it could have. Perfect competition is the exception, not the rule. Most industries resemble monopoly, monopolistic competition, or oligopoly, the other three basic market structures.